Common Ghost.
Imagine training for thousands of years only to be dragged down by an actual pile of corpses. Yes, unfortunately, that might be the fate that awaits these Phoenix Guard, although certainly they'll try their best to hold the line here, and it's myself with Ryder Rohan, my patron. I just want to say up front, big shout out to all my patrons and just everyone in the community in general. Probably would have at least temporarily quit YouTube today if it wasn't for all of you guys, so big thanks for that. I'll tell you more about that at the end if you choose to watch to that point. But anyway, on to the battle here. Ryder Rohan's staunch line of spears and halberds, a couple of dragon princes as well, including the Fireborn and Ilaria leading the way. I've got the dread Chariot Lord himself. Not a true Chariot Lord, more of a Cart Lord, but the actual pile of dead bodies wasn't just talking about, you know, the legions of zombies that they will no doubt slay, but there's an actual pile of bodies, and Gorse Corpse Cart, which is going to be key to my success here, obviously acts as a mortis engine, and since my army generally lacks much, offensive killing power, literally the idea here is just I'm going to outgrind the High Elves. Now you might think, like, oh, all these High Elves have good melee defense, Phoenix Guard have great armor. I don't have much armor piercing here, a couple of Vargulfs. Up front, 5 zombies. We do have 5 corpse carts of several variations, Gorst, of course, being one. We've got a Necromancer who actually has the spells. A Gorst has none to make him as cheap as possible. Yeah, I've got a regular corpse cart, Balefire over here, and an Unholy Lodestone in the center. Some zombie spears, White King going to be pretty essential as well, and the Stearnsman, along with 2 Blood Knights for a handful of elites. But big old line battle already getting underway. This is going to take quite some time, but notice here how the Phoenix Guard, I mean, they're doing okay, but the one issue with Phoenix Guard, I mean, overall, the unit has a lot going for it, right? Martial prowess, like especially on this Regiment of Renown here, equals massive, or martial mastery even, sorry, equals massive melee defense. Their HP is not great, but they do, have some physical resistance as well to kind of help offset that. They do not have a immune psychology baseline, although they can get it from Ilariel, and also magic damage, although again, the Regiment of Renown has magic damage baseline, but notice how, and I mean, granted, this is not really a super fair scenario because I'm also summoning zombies and healing with the corpse cart and everything, but this Vargulf, kind of an ideal target for them, right? Big monster, you would think that anti-large, even not necessarily AP, but just in general that great anti-large, elite status would mean they'd tear apart the Vargulf, but unfortunately, Phoenix Guard's weapon strength is absolutely terrible for an elite halberd. By far the worst, and like it's not really close. We'll look at that again at the end if you choose to watch until then, but for the time being, it's basically just Phoenix Guard wet noodling some skeletons over here. Over here, the spears are slowly getting dragged down by the drain of Helm and Gorst and not really doing much damage to the Vargulf as he grabs some elves and kind of tears them apart. The one benefit of Vargulfs, when they're kind of saturated in infantry like this, in the zombies are going to be taking a lot of the hits while the Vargulf actually deals damage. Same thing with Gorst here, right? The fact that he's saturated in with all these meat shields mean these infantry units just really can't make consistent contact with them. This Vargulf eventually did end up taking some damage. I think most of that was from the Fireborn, though. We've been kind of having this dance of cavalry that honestly I should be highlighting because everybody loves heavy cavalry, right? Yes, you see the Scapscrath rip through the background there, doing some pretty decent damage. My Blood Knight's been more or less just trading with his Dragon Princes, trying to mirror wherever they go. Mostly, more than anything, trying to prevent the Fireborn in particular, the Dovahkiin Elves over here, from getting onto any high value regenerating targets like Gorst or the Vargolf. Gorst, in his current kind of get up here, is not actually that expensive. I think he's maybe 700 points-ish, 720. We'll check, but Blood Knight's coming back around as the Vargolf re-engages, and again, I can kind of just like disengage the Vargolfs and run them away. That is one of the downsides of Halberd infantry, right, is that they are still infantry. A lot of the units that they're meant to be fighting are mobile, right? Cavalry, monsters, a lot of the large units that you're going to run into are pretty mobile and can just get away from combat when it suits them, and especially with vampire counts, the fact that they can run away, just start regenerating, and then come back with multiple passive regeneration abilities. I mean, not even to mention the passive regeneration trait it already has, of course, but you've got all sorts of spells, the Unholy Lodestone, the Necromancer trait. All these different things contribute to, you know, just passive healing in general, and as a result, that low weapon strength of the Phoenix Guard really gets accentuated, right? They really just can't make consistent enough damage, and even still, I mean, this is a very favorable situation for the Phoenix Guard right now. This one's holding out. It's not like they've taken much damage. Same thing over on this other flank, right? Basically completely healthy, and so far, it's honestly still pretty close. Like, the balance of power still basically dead even, kind of teetering back and forth depending on units going down. The Unholy Lodestone does go down there, and we're going to take a big open field charge from these Dovahkiin here, the Dragonborn Elves. That's going to wreck this Vargolf, and you can see with that kind of burst damage, with the anti-large fire, that big charge bonus, they just tear him to shreds. Whereas the Phoenix Guard, you know, lacking that fire damage, obviously, and the charge bonus, just with kind of subpar weapon strength, just wet noodle, right? And like this Necromancer is another example. He's been saturated in here with zombies and other infantry a lot of the time, kind of fighting Lariel at times. They've been kind of bopping each other back and forth a little bit. But in general, this Keepers of the Flame has also been in this fight the whole time, and this Necromancer is still hanging on, as is the Balefire Corpse Cart, of not allowing Alariel to utilize as much Winds of Magic. Over here, this other Vargolf is going to come in, try and bail out Gorst. Gorst is actually finally taking some damage, and if we take a look here kind of from an overhead in the cinematic angle, you can see at the moment the Phoenix Guard actually do get a full surround on Gorst, right? And they will start to tear him down. Granted, it's still not as fast as other elite halberds would, but this is a kind of an ideal scenario for them. And yeah, even still, its burst damage is really not impressive, right? Phoenix Guard are more meant. I get that they're more meant as a tank unit, right, rather than more of an offensive unit. But even still, just compared to all the other halberds, kind of in their class, they just don't have the offensive output often to win the battle, even though they probably will pay for themselves here. Keep in mind, of course, fighting vampire counts, especially with this much healing on the board, all the high elves values are going to be way overinflated, right? But anyway, Helmengorst does just about go down here, though. A little charge from the Fireborn's almost enough to put him over the edge here, but I'm able to screen him out with these Blood Knights. He pulls through. A little bit of healing magic from Alariel, of course, still sustaining over here, but I've got the White King in a position to start fighting her. They're going to kind of form a little duel situation here, and that's not great for Alariel, obviously. The White King's a pretty potent melee combatant with anti-infantry. Decent stats. I mean, she's no pushover either. 67 melee defense with martial prowess active. So it's not like the Necromancer or the White King are going to make super consistent contact, but they'll be able to do some damage over time. Helmengorst also trying to get in there. I pull back with the Blood Knights and the Vargolfs. Again, just leaving the Halberds here and going over there where they are not and trying to break these weaker units. Hopefully going to get a terror route on these Spearmen here. I do still have to be very careful of the few remaining Dragon Princes. They're going to get in a rear charge on the Sternsmen and do some pretty solid damage. But they are very tattered. My Blood Knights are also very tattered, but just feeling the balance of crumbling right now. There's like 7 and 5, I think, on the Blood Knights. They're going to charge in. They're getting healed by Gorst, right, because he's Balefire Corpse, or sorry, an Unholy Lodestone, as well as being a Drain. And also has the Necromancer trait. I think that actually doesn't affect them if they're crumbling, yeah. But anyway, they are getting enough passive healing to help sustain a little bit. Vargulf also can kind of act as a tank here and has weapon strength to try and finish off these models of Dragon Princes. He's got, you know, just piles of corpse carts. I was talking about piles of dead bodies, and again, that is honestly the corpse carts. There's 2 down here already, but Gorst still alive for the time being. Necromancer is down, it looks like, yeah. But at this point, I mean, just the drain effect of Helmengorst is going to finish these off. Keepers of the Flames slowly getting drained away, bursting into flames. Got a handful of units rallied and coming back, but I think Galariel's actually taken quite a bit of damage at this point. Yep, kind of got beat up by the White King and the Vargulf, so there you go. Took a while, but we got to it eventually. Just 2 very attritional-based armies, so you would expect it to be a pretty long battle, and it was, but at the end of the day, the drain and the healing is just a little bit too much. Honestly, it was pretty close, you know, and if Phoenix Guard had slightly higher weapon strength, I feel like Ryder Rohan probably wins that game. And even still, I mean, a lot of people are going to say, like, oh my, you say Phoenix Guard are the worst elite halberd, yet they just got 4,000 damage value on one and 2,000 damage value on the other. And, I mean, yes, but also this is kind of an idealized scenario for them to get a lot of damage value. And even still, they didn't ultimately end up winning the battle, right? Which is the thing that matters at the end of the day, at least for multiplayer. Yeah, if you kind of aggregate them together, they more than doubled the total value spent on them, right? Over 6,000 damage value between the 2 of them. And yet, I mean, Gorst is still just fine. The Sternsmen, especially, I mean, they get almost 2,000 damage value by themselves. Gorst himself, 3,000 damage value as well. The White King, 2,458, also still completely healthy, right? Could have easily killed the rest of the Phoenix Guard. You know, him and the Sternsmen definitely by themselves. But Blood Knights also, I mean, one of them does well, one of them gets crumped. In terms of, yeah, again, for the High Elf army, I'm curious, anybody who's, you know, got a little bit of time and a calculator wants to add up all these damage values that I'm going through here, just kind of, you know, quickly pause and note them all down and add them up. I would do it, but honestly, I need to record some other videos today, but probably, if I had to guess, you know, this is just an estimation, but probably this High Elf army actually got, like, more than 100%, you know, the standard value of multiplayer match in terms of army value. Maybe like 110%, 120% of the whatever, what is it, 12,400 total value of an army that you get in multiplayer because of the amount of healing that vampire counts have, and especially in this type of build, very much meant to just grind you down into death. Yeah, very brutal stuff, but just to kind of quickly compare for some other elite halberds, and I've talked a little bit about this in other videos about some of these other elite halberds, but just to quickly touch on it again here. So Phoenix Guard, only 36 weapon strength. If they get poisoned, they go down to like 29, I think, which is just abysmal. It's so bad for a unit that costs this much. And when you consider especially that, like, their dark cousins, the Black Guard, 44 weapon strength, right? And I think they even have more bonus versus large. Yeah, 24 bonus versus large versus Phoenix Guard's 20. Chosen with halberds, same price, keep in mind, plus 10 weapon strength and an additional 6 bonus versus large. So, I mean, just way outclassed on that front. Even Temple Guards, which are kind of the closest and also 200 points cheaper, and also have incredible mass, like one of the best mass profiles for any infantry unit, and probably the best mass for any halberds, I would want to say. Even total weapon strength, once you take into account the lower bonus versus large, is still lower for Phoenix Guard, right? And ultimately, that is their biggest downfall. I mean, charge defense against all, expert charge defense, is nice. The base physical resistance, and also fear. 30% physical resistance is actually pretty solid, but, I mean, there's enough elements now that deal magic damage that you can definitely work around their physical resistance. It's a factor, but it's not a huge factor. I would definitely rather have more HP, which is also something that they have the lowest amount of any unit of this class, right? So, I mean, like, it's literally 1,700 less HP than Temple Guards, right? It's just, so they have less health and the least weapon strength. They're the squishiest. in that sense, and also do the least damage. So I don't think necessarily that they should be the top of either of those categories. I think it's kind of fitting that they are probably, you know, especially with these other traits, they have the least, but it's just too much less, I think. Like, honestly, if you were to buff their weapon strength up to 39 or 40 even, like, it wouldn't even need to be that much of a change. Like, plus 3 or 4 weapon strength, Phoenix Guard would be a lot better, I think, and a lot more usable of a unit, and would definitely help the High Elves, who are in a little bit of a weird position right now in terms of meta. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. Hopefully you enjoy. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, all that jazz. Really appreciate it. Recently, YouTube has, I don't know if they did some change in the algorithm or what, but my videos just haven't been getting shown to people, like in their suggested feed and whatever, so I've noticed a pretty considerable drop in my views, and I know some other content creators have been having similar problems recently. So again, I just want to say big thanks, especially to those people who choose to contribute their own hard-earned money, you know, either via Patreon, donations on streams, whatever else. You know, it's my YouTube revenue has gone down significantly, which I don't do this for the money, but it definitely helps to help pay for my time and equipment and upgrades and things. So, yeah, you guys have kind of helped supplement that and haven't had a complete loss of income on my channel, you know, because of you guys, honestly. And even you guys who, you know, for whatever reason don't contribute, that's fine. You guys who are here watching, even still to this point, share my videos, like, comment. I appreciate all of you so very much. Everyone who reached out as well on Twitter and, you know, Discord and other things today. Yeah, thank you guys, honestly. The community is the reason that I'm still here for sure. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.